in 6 minutes starts now.
It's up to 50 dead in a fiery disaster in Greece. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. 2 wildfires have been scorching coastal areas near Athens. Fox's Simon Owen monitoring live from our European bureau.
Dave, survivors giving dramatic accounts of how they ran into the sea to escape. Nikos Stavronidis saying we ran and fell into the water and went as far as we could. He says the wind whipping up the flames was indescribable, incredible. Others tried to reach the water but didn't make it. Rescuers reporting finding 26 bodies lying close together around 100 feet from the shore, some of them embracing as they realized they were trapped by smoke and flames. Dave?
Simon, a skirmish in the sky over the Middle East. Israel says it shot down a Syrian fighter jet that ventured into its airspace, and the military says there's been an increase in the internal fighting in Syria since the morning hours. North Korea may be taking another step toward denuclearization. There are reports it's dismantling facilities around a key launch site. President Trump is taking aim at some of his critics, wanting to revoke security clearances of 6 ex-national security officials, including former CIA Director John Brennan, who suggested last week the president committed treason at that meeting with Russia's leader. Republican Senator Rand Paul supports the move.
They are nakedly partisan, and John Brennan should not get anywhere within 10,000 yards of the government. He should have a restraining order.
Brennan says he hasn't made any money from his clearance. James Clapper, who's also on the target list, calls it very petty. They're voting in Georgia in primary runoffs, including a Republican race for governor.
Across our great state, people are really asking who's up there fighting for us.
Brian Kemp has President Trump's support. He's facing Casey Cagle, who's backed by current Governor Nathan Deal. This is Fox News. Fair and balanced.
It's the Ford Summer Sales Event. And now, while selection is best, it's the best time to buy. With amazing offers across a full lineup of Ford vehicles, now is the time to make summer go right with Ford, America's best-selling brand. Stop by a local Ford store or shop online at buyfordnow.com, because there is no better time than right now to get behind the wheel of a new Ford during the Ford Summer Sales Event. The Ford Summer Sales Event is here. Right now, get 0% APR financing for 60 months plus $1,000 bonus cash on the 2018 EcoSport. Best-selling claim based on 2017 calendar year sales. Not all buyers will qualify for Ford credit financing. 60 months at $1,667 per month for $1,000 finance regardless of down payment. For all offers, take new retail delivery from an authorized Ford dealer stock by 7/31/18. See dealer or go to buyfordnow.com for qualifications and details.
The online retail wars are heating up in New Jersey, with Target now offering same-day shipping in the Garden State. The move is to combat Amazon Prime. Target is cheaper than Prime and offering free delivery in less than an hour in some cases. Attendance and wagering is up at Monmouth Park. Meadowlands Racetrack brought in millions during a notoriously slow period. But all those numbers aren't yet proving to State Senator Declan O'Scanlan sports betting, which he championed, will reinvigorate horse racing in our state.
It's encouraging, but no one should assume that, okay, we have sports betting now, we can ignore this industry going forward.
Scanlon thinks sports betting will still be a welcome addition to Sunday's Haskell at Monmouth. The man accused of dismembering and burning a body in a South Jersey field is now charged with her murder. Prosecutors say 52-year-old Dennis Parrish tortured and killed 32-year-old Tanya Cook before dismembering her body in Cumberland County. He was caught after detectives found a moving box among Cook's remains and traced a number on that box back to Parrish. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
Welcome back to the tropical rainforest known as New Jersey. Sticky and steamy today with scattered showers and thunderstorms once again, especially along the western edge of New Jersey. Closer to the coast, we might actually get some breaks of sun today. High temperatures about 80 to 85 degrees. Occasional showers tonight, still very humid. Lows in the lower to mid-70s. Tomorrow looks like the wettest day of the week. Showers and thunderstorms almost a guarantee. A period of steadier, heavier rain will be possible during the day tomorrow. High 75 to 80. Will dry out a bit on Thursday. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPGG Talk Radio 104.1.
Nothing new. Chuck Malamut criticizing me all during the top of the hour break. Nothing new about that. This is a program presented by Chuck Malamut, sponsored, presented by Chuck, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut, do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Hey, Critical One.
Good morning. I think I would be remiss if I didn't throw in that Kirk was actually part of the being critically nice to Harry Hurley this morning.
No, Kirk is always kind to me. You were the critical one.
No, critically nice. There's nothing wrong with that, Harry. That's actually a compliment.
No, you were critically
good morning.
unnice.
How are you
Good morning.
today?
Great.
Wonderful hour that Kirk had.
Yes, it
Last
was.
hour was just great.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kirk.
very
You
positive.
did a fine job.
Not critical. It was very positive. It was wonderful.
Now, as far as now, you see, remember, let's take a step back because if I recall, not too long ago, I remember very early in the morning listening to a caller that called in and didn't understand our relationship, and she was
easy for that to occur based on how you do it.
And she was extremely critical.
And what did I do?
And you stuck by me, Harry, 150%. So you see, I remember things like that. So,
well, how about show it, pay it forward?
Good morning.
Pay it forward.
Harry, I couldn't have been nicer today. I mean, I'm listening to you and Kirk, and it was just wonderful as I was getting ready to get in here. And I said,
yeah,
I hope this hour doesn't end. It was just great.
It was awesome.
Thank you, Kirk.
Market update.
So it's just, you think about it. We are in the throes of Q2 earnings. Last week was pretty interesting because there was a number of positive and negative things that the market was focusing on. On the plus side, second quarter earnings have been coming in better than expected. However, this ongoing, it's not even a discussion now. It's just, it's like, where are we with respect to trade? And the worries around trade, continue to dominate all the discussions, and then concerns regarding additional interest rate hikes on the short end of the curve. Now, what we're seeing with the 10-year right now, it actually pierced through. It's just shy of 3%, and made a pretty big move yesterday. Having said all that, equities in the U.S. were pretty much unchanged for the week. Which isn't surprising in the environment we have, because you have that sort of that tug of war, that push-pull. Financials, industrials had the best performance as far as individual sectors. Energy, sold off a little bit. It was the largest decliner, and Treasuries actually fell last week, and we're sort of in that steepening of the yield curve. So the question is, where do we go from here? Speaking of the yield curve, Harry, you think about it. What's it telling us at this point in time? The slope of the 2 versus the 10-year has collapsed to less than 25 basis points, and it was about almost 80 basis points back in February. As you know, and Kirk knows, historically, the yield curve is a pretty good indicator of showing market tops and potentially economic recessions when it flattens or or inverts. Now, we're not convinced of this cycle, as we refer to it, because we think maybe this time it might be a little bit different. If you look at the long end of the Treasury curve, it's been distorted by demographics. You talk about quantitative easing. The absence of any sort of a premium with respect to long-term bonds, and a decade of very, very low inflation, and investors that have been pretty much price insensitive. So we think at this point in time that we're going to kind of go out on a limb here and say, one, the curve is still it's flattening. It has not inverted. But if it does, in fact, invert, it might be a little bit different. We might not have the big R word, because if you take a look around you, I mean, Kirk, you were away last week. I mean, wherever you go, it's just it's pretty much it's amazing with the amount of people working and the amount of jobs that are available. There's more, as we talked about before, there's more jobs than people right now. It's a pretty good economy. One of which, are we going to get to over 4% GDP? I mean, it's anybody's guess at this point in time.
Well, I think we're going to know on Friday, and I think we're going to see 4%.
Look,
it's been a while.
It's pretty. I think if earnings are any indication, it's probably pretty much. I don't want to say it's a done deal. That's for darn sure. But we think that there is a very, very good probability that will in fact happen.
What's the difference between 4% and maybe even if it's going to be higher, could be going towards 5% even for the second quarter, that can be achieved now, and why is it different than before when it was not able to be achieved?
Well, I think there are a number of things that have happened. Obviously, the tax cuts that were put in for corporations and the middle class. I think that's pretty obvious. The reduction of regulations, or deregulation is referred to it. It's a lot easier to get business done here in this country versus where it was, less than a decade ago. You think about it from a personal perspective. There's certain states that obviously got picked on. The states that went Democratic, California, New York, New Jersey, to name a few. But most of the other states in the country have done very, very well with respect to the tax cuts, because they are in fact getting tax cuts. The ongoing discussion of SALT, making your property taxes act as charitable contributions.
IRS doesn't like that very much.
We think the governor went out and floated that, and they approved it, but chances are the IRS will probably disallow it in all likelihood. So, but in the corporations and small business people, those that have LLCs and file, and they have money to spend right now. You think about the money that's going back into CapEx, to build, develop, expand a business. Didn't have that before. So I think 4+ on GDP, it's not unreasonable at this point in time.
I think it's going to happen. I just don't know how high it's going to go. I think 4% this Friday at 9 a.m. We will be announcing it. It is the new normal.
It's the new norm. Well, listen, 2 times 2 equals 4, right?
Amen.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. So are you doing earnings now?
Yeah. So it's interesting because we're not going to talk about individual companies, because we're not supposed to do that here. But there was a very, very large tech company that announced after the close yesterday, biggest search engine ever, demolishing earnings. And it's I can say it's Google. I mean, or Alphabet. I mean, they absolutely crushed it. And as a result of that, I think pre-market the stock's up 4 to 5%. There was some discussion that maybe the FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, maybe they're sort of maybe a little bit dead in the water, got a little bit ahead of themselves, and we're starting to see a little more movement into value, dividend pay stocks. And I think that's actually good. You need that because, the markets typically do make these moves in and out of particular size of the market. But if you look at what's happening with respect to Q2 earnings, this is a really big week. I mean, there's 41% of the S&P companies, measured by market capitalization, are going to report this week. So if you look, so far, with respect to earnings, off to a really good start. Top line up by 10%, profits up by 20%, and really strong breadth across all sectors. There's always going to be an outlier. There was one last night. But you think about it, if you get 4 to 5 to 1, that's really, really good with respect to earnings.
Chuck, before the first break, let me squeeze one that's not on our list of items to do, and there's a big list still to follow with Chuck Malamut, all about your financial matters. For the third consecutive month, home sales are down, but they're down because there's a lack of inventory. And prices, not in this area, unfortunately, but prices are at an all-time high.
Well, they are. I mean, if you take a look, particularly like an area like on the West Coast, San Francisco, I mean, you just can't – you put a house up and you get literally multiple bids within hours, and you get a bidding war, and, cash only, no mortgages. But, inventory is lightening up a little bit, and, interest rates have moved higher. And that's kind of forced out, a number of potential buyers. So, we always talk about the three-legged stool with respect to the economy, and housing being one.
That's why I brought it up.
So we think that, we'll work our way through this. I mean, there's still, and a lot of it has to do with formation. And you always refer to as the person that graduates, the child that graduates college, comes back and lives in his basement. You always refer to this as someone that has the Farrah faucet.
Yeah.
That's a little dated, but
Faded.
we can change.
I still like it.
Critical
again.
I always liked Farrah Fawcett though.
Me too. I had the poster.
I thought she was pretty.
I had the poster in my room.
She was pretty exciting to look
Red
at.
bathing suit.
But
I had
anyway,
it.
so
Margie, I apologize, but you were not a twinkle in my eye yet at that point.
But formation is important, and if you don't have formation, which literally creates children as a result, then it's tougher for the economy to grow. So I think as long as we can create formation of additional households, that's going to in fact help housing.
We're going to take a brief time out. I cannot wait until we come back because it is the Chuck Malamut program, but also we're going to be talking about the Fed. And the President of the United States did something that almost no president ever does and spoke displeasure about the Fed raising interest rates, which is what I talk about on this program for years. It's what the Fed always does running up to an election. Notice Chuck's mic is off. This is not to be held. He's to be held harmless for this comment, but I've been chronicling it for 27 years. Whenever there's a Republican president heading towards an election year, they raise the interest rates. Maybe it's a byproduct of Republican presidents deliver a better economy, and so you are raising interest rates because of that. But nonetheless, it's still a truth. I'm glad the president did it. The crazies are going absolutely out of their mind. Oh, they're independent. He's breaking all the rules. He should have never done that. We'll see what Chuck has to say about the Fed when we come back. This is Harry Hurley for All Season Solar, our official and exclusive solar energy provider to the Hurley in the Morning program. They design and they install the most attractive, efficient, state-of-the-art solar photovoltaic systems from the world's leading manufacturers. What I love about dealing with All Season Solar, they're your single point of contact. They do the system design, engineering, your building permits, installation, and the ultimate glorious utility connection day. They take care of everything under the sun so that you can sit back and reap the savings. Call Frank Neal today, 609-317-5491. That's Frank Neal, All Season Solar, 609-317-5491. There's never been a better time to go solar. The benefits are there. New Jersey leads the East Coast and second largest in the entire United States in terms of solar energy panel installation. No deposits, no hidden fees, no out-of-pocket costs. All Season Solar. Tell them Hurley in the Morning sent you.
Go jogging. Eat less gluten.
What are you doing?
I'm writing my New Year's resolution.
It's July.
Then why is Lilliston having their model year-end closeout sale?
Because they're getting the 2019 models, so they're offering great deals on the 2018s.
Oh, okay. Getting a new car was on my list, too.
Hi, this is Stacy Lilliston. During the summer clearance event at Lilliston Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, take advantage of super low lease payments on our best-selling models, like a 2018 Ram 1500 Express for just $159 a month. And it's the summer of Jeep. Lease a new 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $229 a month. A Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for only $138 a month. Or a brand new 2019 Cherokee Latitude Plus 4x4 for just $129 a month. It's model year closeout time, and your new vehicle is waiting. Lilliston Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, North 2nd Street in Millville, and online at Lilliston.com.
36-month lease, 10,000 miles per year, $39.95 down plus tax tag. First payment all applicable rebates with accrued credit through Chrysler Capital. All costs borne by consumer. Offer ends 7/31/19.
The skills you can develop as a soldier in the Army National Guard can give you an edge in the high-tech job market of tomorrow. The Guard offers career training to take advantage of your skills in science, technology, engineering, and math that can help give you a leg up to a high-paying and rewarding STEM profession. Get a head start on your career while earning money to pay for college. Log on to NationalGuard.com to learn about all of the STEM career opportunities in the Army National Guard.
Sponsored by the New Jersey Army National Guard. Aired by the New Jersey Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, it's Mark Levin. Join me at 6 this evening. Now back to the Mayor of the Morning, Harry Hurley, on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
We're back 20 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is here, all about your financial matters, and such an important part of the program because the Fed, I believe, not only is obviously such a significant player in our economy and obviously a separate, and it should be that way. I really do believe that. Some people don't like the very existence of the Fed, but I like the supposed independence of it. Always want it to be straight shooting, but what are your thoughts about the Fed?
Well, Harry, let's take a step back and let's look at last week. I mean, with respect to what the president did, it was one of the most controversial periods of President Trump's tenure. He had flare-ups on a number of fronts, but obviously he broke precedent when he tweeted his displeasure with the Fed's interest rate policy. The comment at the time sparked somewhat of a sell-off in the U.S. dollar, and at the same time during the week, Trump floated the idea of placing tariffs on about $500 billion worth of goods from China, sparking further trade war fears. But when you talk about the Fed, it appears likely they're going to continue to increase interest rates. But at the same time, they're also acknowledging, some downside risks. So, Fed Chair Powell, in front of Congress, he noted there were, labor markets, as we talked about, are improving, and the fact that you have potentially, rising inflation. So, the fact that he pointed out also that the rising trade problems may be weighing in on capital expenditure levels within the country and could cause broader economic problems. So you think about it, we are in the throes of Q2 earnings, and earnings, have been pretty much exceptional. And I think the one thing that we've always talked about is they always report top line and you always report bottom line with respect to earnings. So, over the last almost 10 years or so, 90% of positive earnings surprises have come from the margins, reducing expenditures and maintaining or slightly increasing revenues. Now, however, I think, Harry, this is really, really notable. And what I don't want to do is have your listeners not pay attention to this. So far this quarter, 75% of the earnings surprises that we've seen are actually from better revenues, not from just reduction of expenses and increasing margins. So good. That's a real healthy sign for future earnings results, and ultimately, should bode well, for equities.
Because when people were making massive cuts and they were meeting their bottom line, they weren't meeting the top line. Many times I've heard you report in years gone by, this company met its bottom line, didn't meet the top line. Now companies are meeting both bottom line and top line.
Yes, and what is happening is that because of improved technology and the fact that, automation, is only, getting better, not worse. We think, going forward that that's going to, bode well for companies. And I think, it just seems so much easier now, Harry, I think, to get a job. Now, it might not be your ultimate dream job, but certainly.
I think even the equality, though, we went from you couldn't get a job to you could get a job that you might not want and you'd have to take it or whatever, to now I think there's actually a very positive trend of good jobs being available. And I mentioned a week ago, Chuck, it may not have been on your show, but it was definitely on the Hurley in the Morning program, that literally there's a significant number of people quitting the job that they presently have because they can go get the job they want.
We actually talked about that last week, and the fact that we have seen the expectation was that wage growth would be significantly higher than what is coming in right now, and wage growth is not coming from individuals getting from your current employer getting an increase in salary or wages. It's a result of that employee becoming more marketable. Additional opportunities are out there that weren't out there previously, and be able to negotiate a higher wage. That's where we're seeing wage growth.
I've been mentioning also, too, that employers are once again having to take better care of their employees, because before you didn't really have to, because employees had nowhere to go. Now I think that the advantage to the employee is coming back into play.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about, look at where we are here in this area. I mean, we went in a relatively short period of time from, not having available jobs, to having an overabundance of jobs and not being able to fill them. Now, like I said, we've talked about this before. It might not be the job, your dream job, but it certainly gets you back in the game and employable. And it's something that we talked about before. You would have initially thought the last time we had unemployment that was reported in the beginning of July, it actually moved up. Moved up from, I think, 3.8 to maybe 4%.
For a good reason.
And that's because the denominator, more people looking for work is higher now than it was, several months ago.
5 minutes ago or so, you mentioned something about a decade, then you went into a quarter analysis. I want to make sure you didn't cover yet the decade of equity returns, right?
This is, we don't do it kiddingly, but we always talk about, how things, were and where things were, a decade ago. But think about this for a second. I think the number of people that, basically bailed when the market, was selling off every day back in, 2008 and into 2009. So if you look at the 10 years ending this past June, the S&P was up an average of 10.2% per year. That's pretty remarkable. Wow. Compared to a return from the previous quarter, the quarter that ended June. Think about June 30th, 2008. It was pretty. It was pretty difficult back then. The S&P was up just 2.9% per year over that previous decade. So there's a lot to be said, Harry, about trying to be disciplined and staying the course through not only good times, but also, not so good times as well.
We only take one other break, and we're going to do it right now during Chuck's program. So when we come back, we'll be uninterrupted until the end of Chuck's program, all about your financial matters with Chuck Malamut, the official exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. For all of your financial planning needs, you can reach Chuck at 609-383-2010. And Chuck is the managing director. He leads his group, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. Again, Chuck's hotline, 609-383-2010, 609-383-2010. Now, when we come back, Chuck wants us to remember March 9th, 2009. We will come back to that in exactly 90 seconds.
Life is hectic here in South Jersey, but one thing you don't have to worry about is missing the information you need while you're running around doing a zillion things. That's why WPG Talk Radio 104.1 brings you everything you need to know in 6 minutes at the top of every hour. National headlines from Fox News Radio, South Jersey News, and your local AccuWeather forecast, all in 6 minutes. When you need to know, make the switch to WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Paul D'Amato.
Harry Hurley.
Paul, I know our listeners want to know what's new with the D'Amato Law Firm.
Things are great, Harry. We are so privileged to represent our clients whose lives have been turned upside down because they were involved in a serious accident. We meet on a regular basis. We copy our clients on all our correspondence so they always know what's going on with their case. We try to treat them like family. We have Alexa here, my daughter. I'm so happy that she's here. We have Steve Van Natten and Casey Gifford. We're a great legal team.
They're the D'Amato Law Firm for all of your personal injury legal needs. Turn to the official lead counsel to the Hurley in the Morning program for more than a quarter of a century. The D'Amato Law Firm in Egg Harbor Township, 609-926-3300. That's 609-926-3300. Tell Paul, Alexa, Sandy, the entire team that Hurley in the Morning sent you.
Hey, wake up with Harry Hurley and drive home with me, Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. It's all happening here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
All right, we're going to get a history lesson now because Chuck wants us to remember March 9th, 2009.
So, Harry, if you remember, on that awful day, that's when the S&P, hit that 666 level.
Yep.
And since we bottomed on March 9th, 2009, the S&P's gained 404%. And during that time period, we set 202 record closing highs. And that was through last week. And that equal to a gain of 18.9% per year. So think about what we just talked about before. The current decade, up 10 per year. The prior decade up 2.9, but a lot of this was focused. You're not going to call a market top, you're not call a market bottom. But I think if you do remember, there was just so many people that were so devastated by the actions of what was happening in the market, and we heard. Heard on a lot of occasions, either reduce my equity holdings or get me out because having half of something is having better than having nothing of something.
Chuck, as you know, people were scared.
People were petrified.
Yeah, they were happy to have half. Thank you. Give me half. Get me out. Get me out. Get me out. Once again, proving what I'll call it the Malamut doctrine: time spent in the market, not trying to time the market. Because if you've spent the time in the market, that's what you yielded.
Yeah, and I think it all goes back to planning. And I know that I know that we've talked about this. I don't know how many occasions, Harry, over the past 25, 26 years we've been together. The fact of the matter is, without a plan, it doesn't matter what you do. Whether you're planning for retirement, college education for your children, your grandchildren, or friends, planning a vacation, just don't wake up one day and say, "Hey, I think we're gonna drive to Chicago today, and we're just going to get in a car and take off." It doesn't happen, and the same thing happens with retirement planning. I mean, we've oftentimes talked about Social Security, when to collect and how to collect, and I'm going to kind of skip around here just a little bit, but
sidebar question: should people right now, whatever age they are, should they know what year they want to retire?
Absolutely. Not only should you know, I mean, in a perfect world, you want to know what year, hopefully what month, and then, and that's sort of the cornerstone of starting the process. Okay, I want to retire September 2019. And for me to get there, here's what needs to be accomplished. Various sources of revenue, income.
Because Social Security alone is not going to cut it, right?
The average retiree today, Harry, about 20% to 25% of their income is generated from Social Security. The remaining 75%, whether it's part-time work, 401k distributions, using the income stream that generates from their current assets, part-time work. I mean, it's so. The fact of the matter is, life expectancies are, because of modern medicine, are being extended. So don't be surprised if you live well into your 80s and maybe into your 90s.
And people right now, Chuck, either they are very vital and they want to work still, or they didn't plan properly, or whatever. Maybe some bad luck happened or whatever, but they have to work. We have a combination of all this.
Yeah, we do, and I think there's a lot to be said, Harry, for keeping your head in the game. We have seen, unfortunately, where people have retired and they virtually say, "Well, I'm not going to do anything at this point in time." And unfortunately, I think it wears on them per se, and it actually shortens their life expectancy. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but I think it's true. And it's like you got to keep going. Whether it's physical activity, mental activity, or a combination thereof. And you don't. I don't think you just want to sit around and do nothing. I don't think that's a healthy solution. And I think if you talk to most physicians, I think they're going to tell you the same thing.
The health of our country. Chuck Malamut declares change is needed. What does that mean?
Well, we're talking about health and the health of our country. It's I don't want to sound like Debbie Downer here, but you think about it. A report that it recently looked at is issued by the U.S. Government Accountability Office, referred to as GAO. The report that came up was titled "Nation's Fiscal Health," and the analysis basically said that the current current fiscal path that we're on is unsustainable, and that the longer that action is delayed, the greater and more drastic the changes will have to be made. You think about the total debt of our country right now. $21.2 trillion. That was as of last week.
What's the number when we supposedly become insolvent?
Well, I'm not sure what it is, but Harry,
we're within a few trillion of it.
What I can tell you was that a decade ago, July 2008, our debt was at $9.5 trillion. So we more than doubled our debt in a decade. So you get to that push-pull where something has to give,
or just the amount to serve the debt will become absolutely unsustainable.
Well, that's the other thing. You oftentimes talk about, and we'll get this in a second. You get sort of taxed, get taxed to death in various parts of this country, not only from your federal, but also your state taxes. But I think that the fact of the matter is that you have to really, it's like running a business. And Harry, I think we need to do a better job running the business.
Well, they don't run it as a business.
I know that, because it's like, okay, we need to create revenue, to pay for these items. And if we don't create the revenue, that's okay. We'll just dig the hole deeper and go more into debt. But you couldn't run Harry Hurley LLC that way, because you would basically be out of business. You would be doing something different.
That's correct, and we don't want that to be the case. So this is a good segue to the
revenue,
to the issue of states and the federal government and the sources of revenue.
So think of, you oftentimes, we talk with clients, and you and I will chat, and you oftentimes feel sort of mistreated, by, whether it's the state or the federal government. You pay your taxes, you think you have your accountant, or you do your taxes yourself, and you think you have them correct, and you file, you either maybe get a refund, maybe you're even, maybe you make a payment, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, in a relatively short period of time, I don't know what the actual number of years is, but you get that awful piece of mail, delivered to your mailbox, either from the state of New Jersey in this case, or from the federal government. Say, hey, thanks for paying your taxes. Well, they don't quite say it that way, but you didn't pay us enough. And you think about individual income taxes paid at the state level right now represent almost 25% of state and local income tax collection. So think, however, at the federal level, they represent almost 48%. So you think about, there's that constant discussion. Well, let's just raise taxes, because we're going to provide these various benefits. And at the end of the day, you look around and say, well, what am I paying for? And you talk to any politician, whether it's an incumbent or someone that's running, how do I put it, Harry, in a nice way? Because we don't want to talk politics in this hour, but you just kind of shake your head and say, what did I just hear? I mean, there was a bunch of words put together, but did they make any sense? And how is it going to benefit my family and my friends, based on listening to what you just told me?
And people don't feel that way. People feel we're overtaxed, underserved, and it's a problem.
Well, yeah, I think it is a problem. I mean, I know that you've spent an inordinate amount of time talking about, the upcoming election between Vandrew and Grossman, and right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, what they're doing to Seth is, look, you post things on social media, or you repost something. I mean, it's not necessarily your opinion.
Correct.
But you kind of
somebody else's.
But you get kind of thrown in that lane, saying, "Well, if you reposted it,
it's conflated that you said it.
You're thinking this is what you're thinking about,
right?
Or this is what you're saying."
Even if you only did it to spawn debate or thought, or maybe people, I'm sure, have posted things they don't agree with. But yes, if they want to, they will use somebody else's words as though you said them. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's a tough profession to be in. That's for sure. And I've oftentimes been asked, well, maybe you should run to be in politics. So I said,
you have zero interest in that, don't you?
I have minus 25% interest. It's probably there's about 50 more things I'd rather do. I can't even imagine, that whole process.
It's become terrible.
And you and I have talked about that, and you have no interest in it. I mean,
None.
it's craziness.
None. I used to a long, long time ago. This is a great conversation that you remember to have on your program, Chuck, and I really appreciate that you do this. And it's the issue of Social Security, because you've helped a lot of people that maybe were about to make a mistake, that just because you are eligible at the earliest possible time doesn't mean that's the right time for you to dive in.
This is
your thoughts.
As we oftentimes have talked about, you really should wait as long as you can until you attain what is referred to as full retirement age, because the differential in Social Security benefits increases by roughly 8% per year. Now, if you knew your mortality and how long you'd be here, it's a really easy calculation. This I found to be rather discouraging. Less than 4% of Americans waiting until age 70 to collect Social Security.
Say again, what percentage?
So less than 4% wait to age 70.
So 96% plus get it as soon as they can.
Well, not necessarily as soon as they can.
Right. At the first eligibility of the full time.
Yeah, I mean, either 62 or full retirement age. Less than 5% of those eligible to collect Social Security wait until age 70, which is where you're going to get the maximum benefit.
Yeah.
So you think about,
but maybe they think about the fact: what if I live to be 69?
Well, that and I think what goes hand in hand with that, Harry, is the fact that I can't afford
not to
wait any longer. I need, I've used a lot of my assets to live, waiting for Social Security. I now need to sort of flip that switch and begin to collect.
I wonder how many actually take it at 62, because I think that's the big mistake. I really don't hold it against anybody that if they're of an age where they can do it at 65, I'm at like 66. I don't know where you are, Chuck.
66 and change, I believe it is.
And I'm 66 high, I think. I don't blame anybody that goes in at that point, but I think it's a big mistake to go in at 62.
Well, if you can, like I said, if you can afford to wait, I don't know of too many investment opportunities that are, quote, guaranteed, where you're going to get an 8% annual return. But then again, you never know, your life expectancy.
Exactly.
You can live to 90, you could live to 75, and
or as I say, 69.
It's like,
and pay your whole life and never get a penny back.
Well, I think that happened to both of our parents.
It did.
Both of our fathers. I mean, they paid, and unfortunately, they never collected.
My father paid from like age 13 or 14 to age 65.
I mean, look at
never collected a penny.
Look at Brother Bill. May he rest in peace. I mean, geez, he never collected a dime. He paid, and. But it's really, I think it's just a matter of being able to identify what your financial situation is. And I think if you went to any financial planner and did your retirement analysis, I'm hoping that they're going to give you that same answer to be able to use other resources that you've already paid taxes on and collect Social Security at a later point in time.
Chuck, earlier in your program, you brought up the fact we have 96% employment. We have something like 7 million jobs and only available, and only about 6 million people looking for the 7 million jobs. So that's something maybe that's never existed in American history. Where are all the jobs?
Yeah, so if you look at what happens here, the government divides our country into 4 geographic areas: the Northeast, the South, the Midwest, and the West. As of this past May, the Northeast states had 1 million job openings. States in the South had 2.4 million job openings. Total number of jobs available at that point in time, nationwide, 6.6 million. So,
are more jobs available in lower taxed regions?
Absolutely.
See?
It's like it's this.
I wish people would. I know everybody's entitled to their own free will, but there's certain things that are incontrovertible. You tax people fairly, we're going to have record revenue. You tax people unfairly, it's going to result in despair and problems and low growth if you get any. And it's no accident that maybe this Friday we're going to say 4 or 5% GDP. And why did I know that I could say that to you? You're the financial expert. Why did I know I could say lower tax regions have more jobs available? It's not an accident.
And you look at, again, these higher tax states, of which we're residents of one. I mean, you just have that drain, that continual drain. And I think Kirk might have referred to it. I'm not sure. I think he did, or maybe you said it. You guys did it collectively. It was the fact that, the less people left, or less people that remained in the state, have the higher tax burden to pay, which ultimately creates more taxes for all of us.
For who remain.
But sort of shifting gears on a positive note, because we're running out of runway here. We think it's still a little early to play defense with respect to the equity markets. We've talked about trade tensions, we've talked about tariffs. And that potentially, threatens the upside of both stocks and bonds. Now, if it wasn't for those risks, we think equity markets, would likely have moved higher this year, and government bonds would be under some additional pressure. But, having said all that, we think the corporate earnings are, obviously helping stocks and bonds. And as a result of that, Harry, we're thinking over the next 6 to 12 months, modest equity gains, maybe more erosion with government bonds. But, having said all that, I think it's premature to just start playing defense. That doesn't mean, you throw all of your whole account into aggressive equities, but your financial assets, that is. But, I think what you should really do is take a really good look at what you own, identify why you own it, and maybe reposition, because we think there is more upside at this point in time.
My follow-up to you, if you could stay for one more follow-up question. piggybacks off the last word you just spoke. Had you not spoken, it was the same question I was going to ask you to stay for anyhow, and that is when we see the first quarter and we can process exactly what happened, 4 point whatever GDP or 3.5 to 5. It's going to be somewhere between that range. I think it's going to be more than 4 and less than 5, but it would be awesome if it was over 5. But after this quarter, what should people do with their current position?
Well, Harry, I think it's always important not necessarily to measure quarter by quarter, because then what you're trying to do is time the market, not necessarily spend time in the market.
The reason I brought up, I'm figuring half the year will have ended. Is that a time where you should take a look at what you're doing?
I think so. I think it's always a good time. Most people reposition towards the end of the year, especially when it comes to tax harvesting. You have capital gains that need to be offset. You have capital losses you want to offset with gains.
But something could be going on that it would be advantageous to look at it now and not just wait until the end of the year.
Yeah, I think this year, as the market, as we mentioned before, high single digit, low double digits. I think that's very, very still achievable. I think the problem we're going to have, as your midterm elections in November, and then as you start comparing your earnings Q1, Q2 of 2019 versus 2018, I think it might be a little bit of a stretch.
Here's one other absolute undeniable, and it does fit into the Malamut program, even though it would come under sort of the political element, is the second the midterm election is over, it's going to be decision 2020.
Absolutely.
There's no jump right into it with no breathing room whatsoever. And that's going to be a crazy environment,
I think we're kind of there right now already.
We sort of are, but after the midterm, it'll really be.
Yeah, this is Harry, look, you've been doing this a long time. This is your specialty. This is what you live for, you breathe for. I mean, when you ever sit back and sort of like take a step back from it all and say, "Oh my goodness, I've never seen this much craziness."
Exactly.
It's just
exactly right. You just said.
I think the best word to describe it is it's insane.
It is insanity.
Remember what was it?
I call it Bizarro World.
Remember the Crazy Eddie and
I've used that. Eddie Antar. Crazy Eddie's insane.
But we're there, and it's really kind of sad, because think about what this country would be really looking like right now if we were all kind of in it together and firing on all cylinders. It would just be nothing short of fantastic.
It would be incredible. And Tuesday, November 6th at 8 o'clock, I guess it'll take maybe an hour or two, or if some of the races are close, even into the late and early morning hours. But starting Wednesday, November 7th, and probably even before then, this is literally going to be a 24-month nonstop sprint national campaign.
You're right. It is going to be insane.
Now, the good news about that is I believe that bodes well for financial markets, because it will be in President Trump's best interests, not that he wouldn't do it anyhow, but to create the greatest economy possible so that when he stands for re-election, he can win again.
Absolutely.
I guess what I'm trying to say, Chuck, this could be, and we don't know who's going to win the majority in the House, and the Senate's not in jeopardy, I don't believe, but the House is, and that's where all spending measures are originated from. So who controls the House also will be a big story of the next 2 years.
No, you're absolutely correct. You think about, you kind of take a step back and look at the president, what he does and why he does things. You're never going to. It's like you're in the middle of a book, and you don't know the ending of the book until you get to the end. But
as you turn each page, though, even when it looks crazy and it's not going to work out, it seems to work out, and then you turn the next page for the next thing. I mean, you look at the recent NBC poll of last night. The president's number is an all-time high. That's with the worst coverage that any president has probably ever received in American history. It makes the Thomas Jefferson and John Adams love letters between each other, and they wrote thick books about the unspeakable character of John Adams. I mean, they wrote horrible stuff about each other, and the president's at an all-time high, almost inoculated from the insanity.
Well, Harry, I think if you take a look, and again, we've got a few minutes left. We're not going to talk about politics, but if you look at you sort of divide the country into thirds. You got the west, the west coast, the east coast, and the middle of the country. I don't think the middle of the country, has bought into all this.
No,
all this insanity. I mean,
they haven't. But I did a report yesterday, Chuck. Within the not too distant future, 8 or 9 states will represent 49.5% of the American people.
I did hear that. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's you think about.
So it won't matter what the middle America is saying.
Right.
The fringes, the coasts, east, west, and east, are going to decide things in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall you went. It wasn't a rant, but you went on for quite some time about something that I'm telling you. I'm giving you 13 months notice. And nobody really pays attention until the day of or the day after and say, what did you do? Why did you do this to me? Nobody ever told me.
Exactly. Even if you did 100 times. Chuck, always a pleasure.
Harry, listen.
Great stuff.
Great to see you. You have a wonderful week. I know that Kirk is probably listening saying, I'm glad that, Harry didn't beat up Chuck for the rest of the hour. It's all good stuff.
I can't do that. I can't do that. You know that.
You have a good week.
I'm also glad to see in the rearview mirror what has transpired since March 9th of 2009, because when you think about it, that is a decade where you go from a number 666, the mark of the beast, to 404% growth, 202 record highs, 18.9% per year average rate of return. There's not a decade in the history of this country, more than 242 years, where people wouldn't take that decade.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Harry, thanks again for having me. We'll see you next week.
Look forward to it. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go away.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger.
I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update. If you're planning a trip, it can be a challenge to eat healthy, but here are a few ways to stay on track. If you're going to the airport, be sure to eat a healthy yet filling meal before you get there to avoid having to eat at the fast food court. If you've got to eat there, go with fruit and a salad. If you're driving to your getaway, plan where and when you'll be stopping for meals before hitting the road. It will help you choose a healthier restaurant. And of course, pack your own healthy snacks such as fruit, nuts, yogurt, and granola, and bring plenty of water. Of course, we want to enjoy the good food on vacation, but we can be smart about it. If we have a huge breakfast one day, we can go lighter on lunch and dinner, and we don't need to eat dessert after every meal. We should also never go to a restaurant feeling famished. We're more likely to eat the bread, the butter, and everything else in sight.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger. Call 1-888-569-1000 or visit atlanticare.org.
Every child deserves a quality education. That's why NJEA members, teachers, and educational support professionals are proud to partner with parents to provide students with the support they need to be successful in school and in life. NJEA knows that when families and schools work together, our children are the winners. And our commitment to students is paying off. Did you know that according to some national publications, New Jersey schools lead the country in student achievement and giving children the chance to succeed? And our high school graduation rate is among the top in the nation. The College Board also reports that New Jersey students have the highest advanced placement scores in the nation. Go to njea.org to learn more about the great things happening in New Jersey's public schools.
This message, sponsored by the New Jersey Education Association, the New Jersey Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Small business owners, what makes your business the best around? Whether you have incredible custom cakes or unparalleled customer service, there's something you do better than anyone else. And with Vistaprint, it's easier than ever to promote what makes your business great. That's because we make it simple to create professional business cards that are uniquely and unforgettably you. In fact, at Vistaprint.com, you can get 500 standard cards for as low as $9.99 with promo code 1616 at Vistaprint.com. Yep, just $9.99. At Vistaprint, you're the boss. So you can check out hundreds of customizable templates or upload your own one-of-a-kind design. Then take your card to the next level with super custom upgrades like rounded corners, pearl paper, or even shiny gold foil. We've got everything you need to set your business and your business card apart. So create a business card that works as hard as you and make it as unique as your business. Just go to Vistaprint.com to get your 500 business cards starting at $9.99. Use promo code 1616 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code 1616.
These days, there's enough to stress about.
Do I eat enough kale? Do I eat too much kale? What's the best way to sell my car? What color should I paint the kitchen? Well, at CarMax, we can't help you with the kitchen or the kale, but we can help you sell your car.
Wide Open Forum is going to begin in just a few minutes. We'll go to Fox News at the top of the hour. Let me share with you the remainder of the week is looking very, very strong. Wide Open Forum in the 6 o'clock hour tomorrow. In fact, yes, Wide Open Forum in the 7 o'clock hour. I was looking at Thursday because I've already done show prep for Wednesday. We have Brookdale, Cape May at 8. We have Shore Medical Center presents at 9. Thursday is going to fly by in the blink of an eye. We have Ask the Congressman with United States Congressman Frank Loviondo at 7. We have John Zarek at 8. We've got Wide Open Forum at 6 and 9. I'll also be appearing this Thursday with Dom Giordano on his program on WPHT at 10:30.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ 97.3 HD3 Millville. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
It's a very, very petty thing to do. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's the reaction from ex-Director of National Intelligence James Clapper among the Trump critics targeted by the president to possibly have security clearances revoked. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
President Trump is looking into revoking the security clearances of several former high-level officials who've criticized him, among them former CIA Director John Brennan, retired General Michael Hayden, and former National